Whoa! Today I'm going to show you guys how to weld on a Barnes high steer arm on a Super Duty axle. This how-to video is going to show you how to weld on pretty much any high steer steering knuckle that you can get for any cast knuckle that you want to weld it onto. So I'm here at Robbie's shop once again. First thing you got to do is gut all of the outside parts that you don't need. Your unit bearings, your axle shafts can all come out, and then while it's sitting like this, it's a great opportunity to clean up all your knuckle stuff.
I'm marking all around it where I need to grind to make sure that way I have every spot grinded to where when they weld it, it's a clean surface to weld to.
So what he's grinding off is there's a little tit that sits right here on these things that sticks out. So he got that nice and smooth, got everything cleaned off, and that way we can go ahead and weld those arms on with no issues. So now that Hillbilly's got this cleaned up where we're going to have a good work surface, we're going to go ahead and remove the knuckle from the axle, which means we got to disconnect these ball joints. The easiest way I've ever found to remove a cotter key is to take a set of side cutters like this and just come in here at the back side of the cotter key and bite right there. A lot of times you can just pry it out. There it is. I do normally suggest trying to get the lower one out first. A lot of times you can't get a socket in there. In this case, I have a shorty impact that I can get inside here to get this. But if you can't, you definitely want to take this lower nut off first, because this top one you can always put an impact on. Now when you're doing this job, you do not want to weld with the ball joints attached to the knuckle, or plan on going ahead and buying new ball joints when you do it, because the reality is these things are Teflon lined and they are going to melt when you heat up the cast to weld it. So if you haven't ordered ball joints for your knuckles, right now is the time to do that. So next thing you want to do is get this knuckle removed, and to get these ball joints to press off of here, you're going to have to hit the cast with a good strong hammer, and ideally you want to hit right here on the cast and right here on the cast. And there it went. Now we have it off, so it's going to be a lot easier to work with. So next thing you want to do here is you got to drill this knuckle out, because this is tapered for a tie rod end. This is now going to just be a bolt point, and it's a 1-inch bolt that Barnes supplies. So first thing we got to do is drill this out. Now I'm going to start with a 7/8 drill bit, drill through it real slow, and it's going to catch. It's going to be kind of tough. And then go back into with a 1-inch drill bit and finish it off. So you can see that is a fight. One thing I would suggest is if you got a big heavy duty electric drill, that you're very, very careful with it, because it will rip your wrist right out. Now we're going to step up to the 1-inch drill bit. One trick with a bit this big is don't put a whole lot of force pressure on it like you would normally. Is just barely put any pressure on it and just let it slowly chew away at the knuckle. That was some work, but we got it through. Now we can get on to the next stage, which is setting up the high steer arm. The great thing about Barnes Fold Drive is their stuff is laser cut and precision set. It folds together really nice, really great. You have a spacer for this side, goes right in. And now we can set it up to weld. Right here is a regular nut. Barnes supplies a 1-inch lock nut. You don't want to use this right yet because it's got Teflon in it. When we heat this up and weld it, it's going to melt it. So at this point, we're going to weld to the cast housing. When you weld to this, it's going to crack if you don't preheat and post-heat. Now, the old school method of thought is that when you weld it, you want to peen the steel, which does work, but you have to work the heat down through the cast, because cast will hold that heat right in the same spot. So what we're going to do is go ahead and heat this thing up with a weed burner. At this point, with the cast nice and hot, this is the time you want to weld everything up. One of the things you want to do here is go ahead and tack the ends in. And that way you know nothing's going to move when you go to burn it all in. Okay, so now we got this thing all welded up. I got double, triple pass right here, and that's because all your tension is going to be against the top. If they're going to rip, it's going to be here. All your steering link is going to be out here. So there's a lot of pressure on this thing going back and forth. Now all we got to do is heat this cast up again. Like I said, if you were to leave it like this, it's going to crack. So we got to heat this cast up again, disperse the heat throughout it. You can peen it with a hammer, but I'd much rather just use a weed burner because it's simpler to get the same heat out here as it is on here, and then we'll wrap it up for the night.
Wow. There's no judgment. I'm just heating my face up.
Just
Dude, that
what?
would have burned so bad. If you'll do it, I'll do it.
What? Go for it.
Let's be Hexagon brothers.
Hexagon. Is you want to wrap this thing up. So what we want to do is put it in a fiberglass fire blanket like this that you can get from Harbor Freight for pretty cheap, and you want to let it cool overnight. So wrapping it up is going to allow it to slowly cool. That's what it needs to do now. You don't want to throw water on or anything like that, and just let it slowly cool for the next 24 hours. Right, so it's been 24 hours. Come in here, everything's nice and cool now. Nothing's hot. Everything looks great, no cracks, no fractures on the casting, so we know it's going to hold up and be strong for all the steering tension that you're going to put on this thing, especially on this because it's actually going to go on that bus. So you remember at the beginning of this video when I said this is the time you need to order your ball joints? Well, this is the time you should have your ball joints. So right here, we're going to show you real quick just how you swap them out.
First, you remove.
Whoa!
That was close enough, I heard it. First, remove the C-clip without doing that.
Remove this and maybe wear glasses while you're doing it. Or just dodge. You can dodge a C-clip, you can dodge a ball.
Never seen grease go to a hard plastic form.
That's the Teflon inside the ball joint leaking out.
Oh, it's not the
From the
grease
heat,
itself?
yeah. And right there is why I said you need new ball joints, because that was the Teflon literally had leaked out because it melted from getting the cast hot enough to keep this weld together safely.
I got the wrong one.
Aren't you going to have to do the bottom one first to get it out?
I mean, that's probably the wise thing to do.
Yeah. Now, ball joint removal tool is a specialty tool. Obviously, these guys own one. I own one myself. But if you don't own one, usually at the auto parts store, if you're willing to buy the ball joints there, they will wrench you out the tool as well. At this point, you want to go ahead and tighten your lower ball joint up first. That's going to suck it up. The front really just floats and holds the steering together. The bottom is actually what sets the depth of how everything goes. Now it's time to go ahead and make sure that you put your Teflon nuts on, and you can go ahead and tighten those down as well. So Hillbilly went ahead and made these pieces of angle iron so that we can get our toe in. And this is something anybody can do at your own home, especially on these unit bearing axles. It's pretty easy to do. He's got a 4-foot piece of angle iron, they cut into 2 foot, and we got it set up here. We have the Heims already sitting in here. These are just temporary bolts. You always want to use grade 8s. But we have the Heims sitting here with the jam nut and the bung. Once we get our toe in, we can set our measurement for our tie rod, measuring inside each one of those bungs, and then cut it and burn it in. The way you want to measure your toe in on most axles, especially if you're running any type of large tire, is usually about an 1/8 inch, but anywhere from a 1/16 to an 1/8 inch toed in, meaning the front is a little bit closer than the back, will be good. Now when you use your tape measures, you always want to make sure that you have the same style tape measure, and you want to put them side by side and make sure that the inch lines are in line with each other, because there are ones out there that'll mess you up that way. So we got this thing towed in an 1/8 inch because we're going to be running 38 inch tall tires. If you're doing anything smaller, you might want to only be a 1/16 towed in, but anywhere in those two little spots, you're probably going to be okay. Hillbilly went ahead and already cut this. We measured for what we thought is about right to that, and it's 51 inches. He even chamfered the end a little bit. Barnes already puts a taper here so you can get a good weld penetration in here. Now that we have the tie rod set up, we know our links are good, we're going to go ahead and weld this in, but there is a couple tricks here you want to do. First thing we're going to do is just tack this in. We're going to do a couple quick tacks, make sure it's in there, make sure it's straight, and then you want to pull the heims out. I actually have an old set of heims that I keep just for welding, because if you weld with the heims in, what's going to happen is you're going to melt that Teflon out, and possibly you might even get that heim stuck. So I like to just tack it in, pull the heim out, and then I'll put some grease inside of the threads, and that'll keep anything from actually coming in and getting on it. You just don't want to get any burrs or any weld splatter inside those threads. So one little trick of the trade when you're welding a tube like this and you want a full round weld, take a piece of coil roll, bend it into a little hook, and you can put your ground on here. This works really good for doing exhausts and other things as well. A lot of times when you're spinning the tube, you're going to fight this. But if you have it hooked here, now you can spin your tube and you have your ground the whole time.
Blow through it, see if you can get smoke rings. Nope, just a freight train.
All right, so now they're all welded up. We're going to let it cool off a little bit, then we'll put a little more anti-seize in there. I also like to spray a little penetrating oil inside the tube, because that's just a thing that I like to do. It keeps, if there's any humidity inside there, it'll keep it from creating a rust point where you can't adjust your heims. So then we'll go ahead and put the heims back on, we'll put it back up, and then we'll line the thing up. The easiest way to remember which side's left, which side's right-hand thread, if you look here on the groove, you see the groove on the nut and the groove on the spung. We know that this one's left-hand thread, so I got to put it in a little bit backwards.
How much?
That's good. So right here we're 67 3/8, and right here we're 67 1/2 to the outside of this. So we have an 1/8 inch towed in. We're good. We can just tighten it up now. So in this video we showed you how to do the weld-on high steer arms, set your toe, make your own alignments, and do it all from home, from your shop, wherever you are. I'm not even at my shop, I'm at Robbie's place. So I hope you guys now understand how easy it is to do high steer as long as you have the right tools and the right place to do it, and we were able to knock this out pretty quick. If you guys like this video, check these out.